Discord is retracting their good faith. From now on, they will assume the worst of you. They will assume that you're a damn teenager. This is less than a year after testing happened in the UK and Australia, and with a lot of legal liability looming, we are now seeing Discord rolling out age verification globally. And if you can't prove your age, well, you won't be kicked off the platform. But this is yet another part of the internet that's being locked down to protect children. And maybe in reality, to protect Discord's incoming public stock listing. Let's get into the story. This all kicks off in March, and there's going to be a phased rollout, but eventually every user, both new and old, will have to be age assured if they want to have a non-teenager account. Now, what does this actually mean? Well, there's settings and content that unverified accounts won't be able to access, so mature or graphic images will stay blurred, age-restricted servers, channels, and app commands are off limits, DMs from non-friends will go into a separate inbox, friend requests from unknown users will get a warning pop-up, and the stage tool is locked to adults. And there's also going to be a teen council who will advocate for teenage users directly with Discord. Now, most of this stuff is actually in line with what already exists in the UK and Australia. And for most people, the experience should be unchanged. Accounts can still do everything else normally. And they say the goal is to protect teenagers from people who try to reach them privately, so DMs from randos that could be very sketchy, and to protect them from seeing content that they shouldn't see. But the big thing here is this changes the default assumption, because previously Discord asked you if you were an adult at account creation, and they just took your word for it. I think we all know from our past that we maybe weren't always truthful in those things. And in that old world, Discord would only push back if they got some sort of report. But now, well, the burden is on you to prove that you are over 18. And proving that requires, well, documents. And that's where a lot of people are worried. So let's talk about how this all works. Now, as gamers, we're having to do things like age verify ourselves, and, we also do stuff like ordering DoorDash. Well, you may know about the DoorDash data breach last year. There's also all the stuff going on with our good friends at Discord. Remember the breach they had last October that just got loads of people's government IDs spread across the place? So driver's licenses, passports. It's not good, and it's why I use Incogni. They're our way to fight back. They're today's sponsor, and basically, whenever data leaks, data brokers exist. They harvest it, they sell it on, and if you ever wondered how a spam caller got your number, it's things like that. Now, Incogni solves this by automating the legal work you'd otherwise have to do, and you can join at incogni.com/Bellular News. You'll get 60% off an annual plan there, and all you do is you enter your info, and that's basically that. You've got a legal right to have your data taken down, but it takes hours, it's not permanent. Incogni handles it, where they scan the brokers, they send the requests, they add you to suppression lists, and it's quite cool. On your dashboard, you can just see the names of all the data brokers that they've, yoked your data from. It's quite funny because a lot of them have got really spooky names. And they've also got a new feature called custom removals, where if you spot your info online, you can just paste them a link and have their team look into it for you. Now here's my dashboard. 259 takedowns sent, 6 in progress, 253 completed, 22 suppression lists, and they're monitoring 23 data brokers to ensure that they're not being sneaky bastards and they're actually compliant. It's great peace of mind, and you get 60% off at incogni.com/Bellular News. If you're in the UK or Australia, this will all seem rather familiar. To meet legal requirements in those regions, Discord overhauled their verification. Now, the old method was outsourced to customer support, and it was really quite bad. Now, what you would do is you'd submit photos and ID on Discord, and then that would go to the customer support, and they would do the verifying. And if you're thinking about the Discord data breach, well, this is actually what happened. 70,000 IDs were compromised in a data breach last year, and that's because the customer support partner themselves were compromised. It was an awful system. They never really should have been doing it like that. So the new approach is, thankfully, I would say a good bit better. It's kind of the new industry standard that is on-device age estimation via selfie or ID review by a specialist company like KID. And to both of those things, the standard promises apply, right? So the selfies never leave your device, ID photos are, quote, deleted quickly, and they've hinted at more options as well, potentially something a bit like the Steam credit card model. But hang on a second, it's future me here, because there's another little side quest that's happened with this story, because what I just talked about might also explain why some users reportedly were seeing a new company in these checks, a company called Persona. It's already used by Reddit and Roblox, but number one, it is backed by a rather controversial investor, Peter Thiel, and number two, it breaches Discord's promises, right? Their promises about the images never leaving your device. That certainly is worrying. Now, in a comment to Kotaku, Discord claimed that this was a, quote, limited test, maybe an early test of how this may scale up globally, something like that, but it certainly is worrying. And whenever Discord says that stuff doesn't leave your device, but does a limited test where that could happen, while I understand that a test is just a test, it also shows me that it isn't an ironclad principle. Because if your image, etc., never leaving your device was an ironclad principle, then they wouldn't do that test. And that is where I'm most concerned. But here's where it gets interesting. An update in the Discord subreddit suggested that most people will never need those methods. And that's because a verified Discord engineer explained that since most users never interact with age-locked content, the newest system can verify, quote, the vast majority of people without any input at all. The quote is, no face scans, no ID for the vast majority of adults. And that's because of their new machine learning powered, quote, inference model. So what it does is it looks at your activity, your servers, and everything that you've shared with Discord, and it guesses your age. So as an example, if you have a 9-year-old account and you are just playing Hearts of Iron for, 12 hours a day, they're going to assume that you're not a child. I mean, if you think about everything that goes into your Discord year in review, it's kind of doing a lot of number crunching like that. And it's not exactly a new system, so based on user data requests, it seems Discord has been testing this since 2022. And it stands to reason that if they could validate it against the UK and Australian users in 2025, when all of that stuff happened, then they could be confident enough to roll it out worldwide. So basically, if they do the ID checks and stuff like that in the UK and Australia, but they also run this model, and if they essentially agree with each other, then they can probably trust the model, or at least that's the assumption they'll be making. But of course, this model does kind of give the game away, because that level of verification would not fly in the UK or Australia right now, because in both of those regions, a model like this would not be legally sound enough. So if it's not legally sound in those two regions, then why are Discord going global? They're going global not because they have to, but because they want to. This is voluntary, it's not required by law, and it doesn't even bring global audiences in line with the UK or Australia because their inference model would not count. So what this is Discord choosing to ask for more information without legal pressure to do so. Now immediately that could seem like a data grab, right? More info on you that they could sell to a data broker or something. I mean, if the product is free, then you are the product. But the thing is, they already do have your data, and they can already make assumptions. So what's the point of this? I'd say you're probably looking at the wrong money-making opportunity if you think this is just Discord deciding to get a whole bunch of stuff so that they can then sell it. And that's because in March 2025, the Financial Times reported that Discord was considering a public offering. And this kind of thing is huge. It may not seem huge as a sort of standard user, but for the companies, say the investment firms like the VCs, etc., who have been pumping money into Discord for a long ass time, an IPO is where they can get a lot of their money back and get a big return on their investment. That obviously can change the incentives for employees at Discord if, of course, they have stock options. Now, as of January, Bloomberg claimed that the filing has been made confidentially, backed by Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan Chase. Now, Discord downplayed that reporting, but being realistic, this was inevitable. They've had 17 rounds of funding over 12 years, they've raised nearly $1 billion, and the whole last year has just been them getting ready, right? I mean, just look at it. There's the advertising-powered quest system that's evolving into basically out-of-game microtransaction stores. We covered that recently. There's the social SDK, which, I mean, is a fairly cool bit of tech, and embedding Discord as a chat layer in a video game is kind of good if you're a Discord user, but of course, it's an infrastructure play. That would be awesome for investors. And now what have they got? Well, they've got a machine learning tool that they can sell to investors as a, big cool AI thing that handles age verification. But that's not really the entire story. loads of people are cancelling Nitro in response to this news, so there will be a financial hit. But Discord's leadership seem to be confident that the backlash from the privacy-conscious gamers will hurt less than the other problem. The bigger problem. The children. I mean, I guess they're small, but, you know, you get the point. So if they're so small, why are they such a big threat? Well, in 2024, the founder and then CEO of Discord was subpoenaed by the US Congress to testify on how the platform was protecting children from exploitation. And if me saying that lights up your memory, yes, there's good reason. That was the same kind of brutal staged event where parents who had lost children were lined up behind tech CEOs, and Zuckerberg apologized on camera. Now, the new CEO of Discord was then meant to return at the end of 2025 to discuss extremist activity following the killing of Charlie Kirk. And for years, the US government has tried to implement sweeping child protection laws like KOSAS, and they never quite delivered on that. Of course, some people are angry about that, but privacy advocates, free speech experts are very much happy that, well, you know, the kids haven't been used to ram in a whole bunch of laws. But the feds, as it turns out, didn't really need to go all of the way, because the Supreme Court already upheld state age verification laws as being constitutional in spite of free speech concerns. And of course, that's just new laws. That's not the laws that Discord is already accused of breaking. So, as of 2025, Discord faces multiple US lawsuits alleging negligence. These include failure to verify ages, moderate content, and to deal with, you know, associated problems. New Jersey even went as far as suing the platform for, quote, employing difficult to navigate and ambiguous safety settings to lull parents and children into a false sense of security. And all of this stuff going on shapes how people see these changes. Private companies are de-anonymizing the internet. Basically, they're deciding what counts as being adult content or not. We're also seeing payment processors just wrecking platforms across the web. There are endless data breaches that don't seem to have as large consequences as they probably should have. In short, it's a shitload of chaos, and a growing feeling that the internet is being locked down for protections that don't even work. I mean, if we were to think about just the age verification stuff that is supposed to happen on device, where Discord doesn't even see your ID, all the Discord gets is basically a yes or no checkbox provided by, you know, whatever their compliance partner is. You know, I can say all of that, and I can even believe that those companies probably are doing that. But, you know, trust is like pretty quickly lost and really hard to earn. And that's maybe one of the strange things to people. Even if a bunch of systems are set up to be robust, right? To do as good a job as possible of verifying that someone is an adult, but to do so in a way that doesn't violate their privacy, even if all of that stuff is set up really well, mistakes still happen. And there's plenty of examples of companies saying, we will do this thing, and then not doing that thing. Or saying that user data is only withheld for a certain period of time, and then lo and behold, you find out, oh, it wasn't deleted on time, right? We've all seen stories like that. But I can cut through a lot of this and just say that the calculation is straightforward. If they can show angry parents and lawmakers that they have taken visible steps, then they will get their stock listing without a bunch of controversy. And if that happens, that'll be really good for the people who have bankrolled them to this stage. And even then, it won't stop the accusations. I mean, in the day this was announced, after months of changes and fixes, reports surfaced that Roblox is being freshly scrutinized by the Australian government over children's exposure to harmful material. So even though they ostensibly did a bunch of things to do all of that better, well, they're still getting looked at. And I would say the Discord's critics won't be going anywhere. Discord probably does expect more scrutiny as time goes on, but for now, this is a big public move. Big olive branch to the world, I guess, all so that they can get their big corporate priority through, which is that public stock listing. At the very least, having looked at all of the evidence, that is my current belief. So what's your take on things? Well, on the one hand, Discord is reacting to a big global wave of pressure. But on the other hand, this is them being proactive. In a way, proactive about the reaction, because they didn't wait for like global laws mandating age verification, right? A big new federal law in the US or a big new top-level EU law. No, this is them trying to establish a new normal that may inconvenience adults, but in theory will mean that the kids are more protected. And in establishing that new normal themselves, they get to do it on their own terms, which is very much what they would rather do. Of course, as the Australian social media ban has shown us, just use a VPN now. No system exists that can't be circumvented. Kids are going to get on these platforms regardless. That's why Discord is putting the burden of proof on everyone else and hoping their automated systems can keep friction to a minimum, which may be true in practice, but I think the principle of these changes, even if it is Discord trying to, find the new ground that will just let them do whatever they want to do, the IPO, without being maximally compliant with what they think the law may end up being in a few years. At the end of the day, it is going to cost them a lot of Nitro subscriptions because they're just not trusted. And as much as they may seethe and say that, listen, last time it was because our customer service outsourced company got hacked and they had your IDs, and this time your ID won't leave your device. As much as they can say that, they lost trust. Once you lose trust, well, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. And that is what they will be doing. And speaking of uphill battles, Steam machines, you getting one may be an uphill battle, and I can even add to the story that getting a Steam Deck may also be an uphill battle because we've just found out that they have major stock constraints in the US. If you want to learn about what's going on there, watch this video next.